The U.S. Supreme Court's conservative majority flexed its muscles in stunning fashion in recent days, overturning a 50-year precedent on abortion, undercutting the government's ability to curb greenhouse gas emissions, expanding the right to carry guns in public, and showing in its opinions a willingness to go even further. The rulings delighted political conservatives, outraged reproductive rights advocates and climate activists, and raised alarms among court watchers and legal analysts.
What we're looking at is a picture where democratic governments have less power to protect the public against harms, and private authority is much bigger.
Blake Emerson teaches at the UCLA School of Law. He said Thursday's decision limiting the Environmental Protection Agency's ability to regulate carbon emissions from power plants was written in a way that grants judges the power to impose their ideology onto the law.
Chief Justice Roberts says in this opinion that agency actions are suspect when they raise an eyebrow. Now, so whether a regulatory action raises an eyebrow is probably going to depend on the preferences and the ideological viewpoint of the judge who's deciding the case. And this opinion gives lower court judges in the district courts at the lowest level, as well as appellate court judges, to strike down federal regulations that simply seem too big or the judges just don't like.
Roberts and 5 other conservative justices, Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, dominate the court, facing but 3 liberals. It's a majority strong enough to withstand even the occasional defection, and this term showed a fearlessness in remaking and removing rights long thought protected by the court. In a concurring opinion eliminating federal abortion protections, conservative Clarence Thomas said the court should consider overturning other precedents, including the 2015 ruling that legalized gay marriage, the 2003 ruling that ended state bans on same-sex intimacy, and the 1965 decision that protected access to birth control.
We're in an environment now because of the extremes, particularly on the right side of the spectrum, where most of the action is happening, that has replaced the correct legal answers with the ideological predilections of judges. And that has been transparent for some time, but it's now going into overdrive.
The term ends with a list of cases the justices will consider next year, among them an appeal by North Carolina Republicans that could give state legislatures far more power over federal elections by limiting the ability of state courts to review their actions. Republicans, many of them proponents of the false claim that the 2020 election was tainted by fraud, are hoping the court will grant state governments more power to determine the outcome of elections, which voting rights advocates warn will give states power to overrule federal election results they do not like.